Wagner head Prigozhin seems to be flip-flopping on whether or not he is going to be fighting in Bakhmut. But what's more significant is that in response to Russia's Victory Day, one of the largest state holidays, he's got some choice words for the big boss himself, Bunker Grandpa Vladimir Putin. Is this a sign that fractures in the Kremlin are starting to boil over? We're going to watch the video and break it down. Let's get right into it. As you can see, it comes to us from Concord Press Service. And you might think Concorde, like Flight of the Concords? Exactly. Because, of course, Prigozhin is the head of the Wagner Group, named after the composer. So before we get too far into it, I just want to shout out combatvetnews.com. You guys know YouTube has been cracking down more and more on my videos. Even videos that don't show any combat are still demonetized. But if you want to support what I do, combatvetnews.com is the place. It has all the news stories I can't get to in my daily updates, all the YouTube videos for free. But if you become a member, you'll get access to uncensored combat footage breakdowns, all the videos and breakdowns that I can't show you on YouTube. So definitely check it out, combatvetnews.com. Okay. All right, well, this is not that helpful without some captions. Let's get this in English. Yeah. What language could I possibly want, YouTube? Take a guess. Okay, let's see. Why on earth would they publish...
A combat order came yesterday which clearly stated that if we leave our positions in Bakhmut, it'll be regarded as treason against the motherland. That was the message to us. But if there's no ammunition, then we will leave our positions and we'll be the ones asking who is really betraying the motherland. Apparently.
Okay, wow. So it seems like Prigozhin claims he's placed a big bet on his basically attempting to blackmail Russian forces to provide them with ammunition, literal ammunition, to continue their pushes in Bakhmut. But when he wasn't provided that, he said, you know what, we are going to be withdrawing from Bakhmut. We're a private military company. We can do whatever the hell we want. Well, apparently he was told that withdrawing from Bakhmut would constitute treason. And this is classic authoritarian nonsense, right? When it benefits the Russian government, when it benefits the Kremlin, PMCs are private employees when it comes to paying them benefits. But when it comes to forcing them to fight, PMCs and Wagner are military personnel who can be ordered around. And this is how Russia operates, but in many ways, this is how sort of all state apparati operate, right? When you control the rule book, you control the rules. And when you control enforcement of the rules, you can select who gets the rules enforced on them. Again, look no further than any corporate grifter here in the United States. Which ones get prosecuted, which ones get good, favorable deals, and which ones never have to meet with the DOJ.
Apparently, the one who signed the order to supply too little ammunition.
И вместо того, чтобы потратить снаряд, убить противника, сохранить жизнь
Okay, wait. Now, all right. So now we got to turn the closed captions off.
нашего солдата. Убивают наших солдат, а счастливый дедушка думает, что...
It's calling him Happy Grandfather, right? I've also heard this can translate to like Bunker Grandfather.
Ему хорошо. И что делать дальше стране, если он окажется прав, дай бог всем здоровья. А вот...
Okay, so this is a pretty bold statement here, right? He's calling out Putin specifically, and he's claiming that basically Putin is deluded. He believes incorrectly that things are fine, that things are going well, but Prigozhin feels that he is actually, that the reality of the conflict, and you can see he has not chosen this location by accident, okay? He is at an artillery unit. You can see expended artillery shells. You can see a few boxes, but it looks like a gun that has fallen silent. And this is not an accident by Prigozhin, right? He is trying to communicate to others that, hey, the Kremlin doesn't understand the reality. I do, because I am literally in it.
Что делать стране? Что делать нашим детям, внукам, будущему России? И как выиграть
What I also want to know is the new addition of these patches. What do they mean?
войну? Если вдруг случайно, я просто предполагаю, окажется, что этот дедушка мудак.
This is crazy. Calling Putin a complete effing moron means that you are probably leaving the fold of the Kremlin and cannot come back. This is also sort of like, think of them as like predatory animals, right? They operate in packs, and when you have a authoritarian dictatorship, remember, power doesn't transition using things like elections or consensus building of a parliament. Okay, when you take power by force, you can only be deposed by force. And because Prigozhin has one of the largest independent militaries in Russia, he controls some of the largest amount of total force. Because remember, he controls Wagner Group itself, but he also controls a significant number of Wagner loyal officers within the Russian Ministry of Defense. So that means that Prigozhin believes that Putin is weak enough, just like an aging lion at the head of a pack, right? The younger lions are going to smell weakness, and they are going to become increasingly brazen in challenging them for leadership. So Prigozhin is out here believing and trying to create the perception among the public, and more importantly, among power brokers in the Russian populace at large. Think business leaders, ultra-nationalists, members of Wagner Group itself, the Russian rank and file of the military, that Prigozhin is effective and the Kremlin leadership is decrepit and out of touch.
Вчера пришло боевое распоряжение, в котором было четко сказано, первое, важное, это в случае ухода с позиций будет признано как измена Родины. Это к нам
we just heard this, right?
Видимо, тот, кто подписывал. Нам было обещано 7 числа, что нам их дадут. 8 числа в 2 часа ночи, 2 часа утра поступило боевое распоряжение, в котором написано «дать все». Сегодня 9, 8 было совещание, на котором дали 10% от запрашиваемого. Нас просто в наглую обманули. Мы не уйдем из Артемовска, будем...
Will lock horns. This is what we'll see. This is a huge break between Wagner and the Russian MOD. This is very combative language. And the Russian MOD is in a tight spot because, again, it can barely contend with the Ukrainian military, who has amassed 13 brigades and is probably in the act of deploying them as we speak, if I were a betting man. And to make things even more worrying for the Russian MOD, right? You now have Wagner, who is refusing orders, a significant portion of their combat power, the only combat power in this conflict that has a track record of actually making offensive gains. And now they are not just refusing their orders, but he is threatening to lock horns, quote unquote. And this restriction of ammunition by the Russian MOD is not an accident. It's probably part of a deliberate effort both to conserve ammunition for the defensive effort ahead of them, but it's also to ensure that Wagner takes the highest number of casualties because they want to reduce the ability of Prigozhin to effectively commit violence, right? They want to reduce his power base. And remember, in a totalitarian regime, the ability to inflict violence is power.
Будем настаивать еще несколько дней, пободаемся, а там разберемся. И по поводу того, что солдаты из окопов бегут, в российской армии.
I just want to point out, I love the fact that this is clearly filmed in like a break room. And again, this is not an accident. Okay. None of this is an accident. Prigozhin can stage. He has an entire press service. He is a billionaire. He can film anywhere he wants. He wants to make it look like these messages are a friend almost. You know what I mean? Like he is calling, he is saying, hey, this is just two friends talking. I just need to put this message out there because this is who not this is who I am, but like this is an unscripted, unstructured, unpolished message direct to the people. And this is meant to be contrasted to the Russian Ministry of Defense, who releases, and the Kremlin, who only has extremely staged propaganda events, right? If we look at the Victory Day parade, 23, Putin, right? You can see that when we look at the way this 2023 Victory Parade is done, you could see the images are extremely curated by the Russian press service, right? The angles, there's not one candid photo in all of this. And this is not an accident. This is part of how staged, managed, and artificial the Russian government wants these things to look, right? But it's like the more layers of paint you put on the cracks, the more you worry about what is underneath them. You almost trust a wall where it's just like, yes, there are some cracks in the wall. We can all see it. No one tried to hide it. And you feel like that's what's there. When it's obvious that someone is trying to hide something through this highly polished, highly curated media blitzes, then you're more likely to say, well, why? Why do you need the Victory Day parade to look so pristine and perfect and every angle be totally staged, managed, right? Why can't we see the non-stage managed version of the war? And that's what Prigozhin is implying by filming inside the Wagner office break room.
Это проблема не солдат, это проблема тех, кто ими управляет и кто ставит задачи. И рыба гниет с головы, и поэтому если задача ставится через жопы, то солдат, он уходит из окопов, потому что бесполезно погибать не нужно. Солдат может погибнуть.
Like we talked about, he's appealing to the rank and file.
И, к сожалению, так часто бывает. Но солдат не должен погибать из-за абсолютной глупости его руководства. А эту глупость руководства генералы на местах и полковники обязаны выполнять, потому что команда...
First off, Prigozhin calling the Kremlin a criminal is pretty rich. But it's sort of like Trump calling people tax frauds, right? Like the man has some questionable tax practices, which he admitted to. And so when he talks about this level of criminality, this is juxtaposing himself completely against the Kremlin. And he understands, again, remember, Prigozhin's interests are for himself. He wants to be more powerful. And he is positioning himself. He's making this break at the moment when the Russian Ministry of Defense is at its most vulnerable, when they will be unable to stop him from asserting his power, literally or figuratively, because of the coming Ukrainian counteroffensive. Anyway, guys, that is all I had for you. I hope we got some insight here. I hope you guys appreciate this level of insight into the power struggles within the Kremlin. And boy, does it not bode well for Russia's ability to resist the Ukrainian counteroffensive. That's all I had, guys. Check us out at combatvetnews.com, and I'll see you in the next one.